Hey, thanks, Steve, for coming down.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Just experimenting with this thing.
Yeah, fuck yeah, that's what it's all about, is linking up with friends and doing shit.
Yeah.
Well, one, when the waves are small, you ride a twin fin. That'll help with morale.
Hey, you don't mind if I ride this one, do you?
What? Is that a Tilo?
Yeah, it's my dad's board.
Shut up.
Look at it. He just
Vaqueros de las Olas.
he
That's
dropped it
amazing.
at the house. It's been under the deck for like a year.
I don't know, I felt like surfers and riders and people who like I worked with in surfing always felt like you had to like make surfing seem more than it was to like make it cool. But surfing's already cool. Like you don't have to do anything to make it seem like it's something cool, and whether someone thinks it's cool or not doesn't even matter because it is what it is. Like it's just this cool act that you get to go enjoy like in the ocean. So I always like just tripped when like a writer or a photographer or someone on the ship was like, no, we gotta do this, we gotta do that, we gotta like make it seem like this. It's like, for what?
For
who?
I mean, but how is it different now? Because you've gone through the process of creating and doing stuff like Los Zapatos. That's even with Dave, who's now helping you with Weird Waves. And how is it different doing that in like a performance aspect to more of like a culture aspect? Or I don't know if that, does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's just a progression of working with Dave for sure. Like throughout, like I met him 10 years ago when he was working at Transworld, and always liked his vibe, and we went on a few trips like for Transworld movies at like Let's Surf Seriously and Tropical Yours and stuff, and he's just a solid dude. Like, and I felt like we kind of gelled well, and then there just kept being opportunities for us to work together. He loved coming down to PR, so he was like, you know, he wanted to do something for that surfer magazine, like Red Camera competition. What was the name of that?
I forget, but you guys, the one you guys made was Los Zapatos, right? That was like the
so
Reddit
he made Los
thing?
Zapatos for that. Yeah, it was like a red epic, like
maybe
like competition or something like that. And yeah, so it just like we just kept evolving, like, you know, as friends, and then also within our careers. Like he enjoyed surf cinematography, and I obviously enjoy surfing, so it was just it felt like a cool natural pairing. And then each project we kind of like progressively started getting like deeper and deeper into like more things that we were into.
But at the same time, when you were doing Los Zapatos, was it Dave editing it?
Yeah, so Dave like wrote that script, he shot it, he edited it, like everything. He had the like song already picked out before he came like to Puerto Rico.
That's sick.
And before I knew really anything, like he had already had this whole vision, and he had it like the vision was really clear and like scripted out of like shooting with me in Puerto Rico, with like the idea of that technology was like affecting people, and surfing was the way to like save you from
Dude,
technology.
It's a great edit. Like, thing's insane.
Yeah, that experience blew my mind, because I was like, whoa, like this is pretty next level as far as like, you know, working with somebody, you know, on like a surf film. Like Dave already had this all mapped out and knew exactly what he wanted before we went and like executed it. And that's a hard thing to do in surfing, because you can't control like anything with what you're gonna set up and shoot, clip wise, like surf wise. I mean, he left that part like open because we were just gonna surf and get what we got during that month that he came down and stayed with me. But yeah, it was just like that kind of like blew my socks off with his vision, the way he executed it, and the way he like brought everything together to feel like it was all a plan, which it was.
So then how did it get to now where you guys are you both editing Weird Waves? Like pretty much, is it 50-50 edit work, or do you do, like what is your role now in terms of how much Dave was giving at Zapatos level to now where you guys are at with Weird Waves?
So Dave has sort of been this crazy influence in my life, like all across the board, but there was a moment, like, because I've been trying to make Weird Waves happen, or the concept of it happen for 9 years now. So it was back in
9 years.
9 years of trying. I mean, well, I guess from now to then, it started.
Oh my God!
It was probably 8 years ago. 8 years from when Weird Waves actually happened, like the first season. To be clear.
I mean, that's insane. I didn't know it was that long. I knew that. Like,
well, from when the initial talk of it was happening, the initial concept of Weird Waves was initially spoke about in 2012 with. Is that right? 2012? Yeah, 2012.
That's been a long run, and to see the evolution of it, it's pretty cool to see where it's at now.
Yeah, so hold on, I'm just thinking about when that was, that initial conversation. So last year we released it, so 2018, 2012. So it was 6 years.
Okay.
From the initial like conversation of like when it came out.
But how does that start for you? Because I mean, you've gone through, like we were talking, like Let's Surf Seriously, that was a crazy section that you had there. And then Los Zapatos was an insane section. Like, at what point was it more transitioning toward like your passion of finding Weird Waves and the culture around it?
Right. So from like working with Dave with like Los Zapatos, I really wanted to like learn more about filmmaking in general. It was just really interesting, like how he came up with the script and how he sort of had this vision and how he got there. It really inspired me. So after like not having Weird Waves happen and me being like really into that idea and feeling like, wow, this was a good idea, I would like to continue to like develop that idea. I think like Dave was sort of my voice of reason to be like, hey, like teach yourself how to work with Final Cut and just use like stuff that you need like on your Instagram, like just make little videos, start to like figure it out and start to, just mess around with making a timeline for Weird Waves with like, the footage that we had tried to shoot for like those first like pilot episodes that didn't end up making it anywhere really. And so I kind of took that as like a reason, like, okay, yeah, let me like try to see what I can make with this stuff that I have and if it can go anywhere. And I would call him all the time about, with like trying to get help with whatever I didn't know about Final Cut at the time. And he was like really patient with like teaching me stuff, and whatever was like too much to explain on the phone, he'd be like, all right, go on YouTube, just type in this and see what comes up. So basically through Dave and YouTube, I taught myself how to edit. And then once I learned Final Cut, it was like kind of on to Premiere. And Dave's like, well, if you know Final Cut, now everyone's using Premiere, and you can use all the same settings that you used in Final Cut for Premiere, and you should just make this thing as best you can. So then I made that first like 5-minute edit of Weird Waves in, I think I ended up releasing in like 2016, and that was sort of like my first like start to finish edit that I had made on my own, or like edited on my own.
I feel like too, it's crazy with having you behind the editing process. It's your thumbprint on the seasons. You know, like you can feel like there's so many little innuendos of humor and things like that because I know you pretty well. So it's cool to see like that involvement on that level. Also the music, right?
Yeah,
You guys did a lot of music.
I'm definitely learning that with just throughout all these projects from Weird Waves to then after that little thing with Weird Waves, we went to Greetings. And Greetings was a huge stepping stone as well because I had kind of started to mess around a little bit with editing in that one and trying to help organize stuff, which I did very little of. Dave like did the whole thing, but then we were like, how do we like inject more of ourselves into these things? Like what's something, you know, it started to become more like a challenge for you to like put more into your project. And then we started we made a couple songs for Greetings. And then from Greetings, we got the chance with Weird Waves where, you know, we pitched the idea, I feel like in the right way. So all the time that we didn't actually like get to do Weird Waves that whole time that I was like this in a moment, like, I want to do Weird Waves. It was like, it all kind of like led to doing it in the right moment.
Yeah.
Not that I'm like a huge serendipitous person or whatever, but like, yeah, it like all of the projects from like working with Dave on like Transworld stuff to like where we're at now with Weird Waves, it all was like an evolution of like trying to figure out how to challenge ourselves to basically learn more things and to put more of ourselves into these edits, which I feel like Weird Waves is a really good representation of.
Oh, it's an insane. I mean, I feel like because knowing you both so well in the creation that you're making, it's actually really cool to see how it's grown from season 1 to now seeing season 2. It has a completely different feel. It's amazing. Like, I can't, like, the way you did all the intros on the first season with the songs, and now with this, I've only seen the first episode of the second season, but I mean, what's the scoop with, is that theme going to run all the way through the season?
Like the theme song?
No, like being in outer space.
Oh, yeah, we tried to have, we tried to make it all have like a cohesive feel. And we were working with this artist from Germany, Max Loeffler, which I'm not even sure if I'm saying that properly.
How'd you find him?
I found him on Instagram, and he had just done all this like really cool sci-fi stuff, and I've been like,
dude, that's rad.
I've always been in the sci-fi.
Deep dive.
You know, from like Goosebumps when I was like super small. Like those were some of like Goosebumps, Harry Potter. Like
Say Cheese and Die Part 2.
Yeah, I read like all those books. I'm a full geek.
Yes.
Like full science, like sci-fi geek. Science class in school is actually my favorite.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill Nye the Science Guy was amazing. Obviously, like Star Wars, all that stuff's just really fun to watch. So I was thinking that would be kind of a cool thing to incorporate into this season because I feel like Weird Waves is sort of the sci-fi genre of surfing. Or that's what it is to me,
you even said outer realms of surf culture, right? Like that's kind of the tagline.
So that definitely is, I don't know, it felt warranted to like have this sci-fi sort of feeling artist. He does like all kinds of stuff, and his stuff's amazing. But yeah, Max did all this art for it, and it was like, all right, we have to go 100% like head first into this vibe.
Yeah.
And we did, and so that's why the spaceship thing kind of came up. I was doing some research on where we could possibly shoot like something, like maybe there was a set in LA that we could use, or some old like crappy B-grade like sci-fi set that someone, you know, still had up and was renting out. So I ended up getting on Peer Space and saw that there was this like sci-fi set in LA,
so good.
And that's where it all, I felt like that connected with like Max's art, and then just paying homage to like, our tagline, or our like, you know, ethos for Weird Waves, which is like exploring the outer realms of the surf world.
I love that because I felt like I hadn't seen any of the new episodes until just before they were gonna launch, and when I had like, it had been building up after the first season, I'm like, fuck, these things are gonna be crazy. And then you open it, and I think all you say, you like, it comes to you in the spaceship, and you're like, we're back, or something like, welcome back. And then you flip up on the phone like, oh, we're at that level. That was so good.
Well, I don't know. I'm just also, I'm not great at being a host. Like, I'm not going to be that guy who's on camera, like speaking to the camera, like, hey, welcome back to We Win. So we like, I don't know, we just embrace that and like just have fun with just doing things that make us not feel so weird, but probably to other people are even weirder.
Well, is that the term anti-host?
So yes, that's been like a whole, Scott Sismus, our boss and good friend at Vans, when we were developing like the first season last year, I was kind of like venting to him about like just my host role and how I didn't want to be a host. Like I'm not good at being a host, not good at being this like high energy guy on camera. And he's like, well, don't be that guy. Yeah. Be the opposite of, you just be yourself and like be an anti-host. Like you don't have to be a host like, you're on MTV or something. Like this is your show. You can be whatever you want to be. So we try to like have fun with that. Like, okay, what would I be okay or feel okay doing like in front of the camera? Yeah. And how can I make it me? So we try to think about all those things when we're like shooting.
I feel like that's it. Also, that makes it stand so uniquely because it's like nowadays it's like a vlog thing. It's on you. You know what I mean? It's more about what you're doing, how you're doing it. And I feel like you take the opportunity to shine the light instead of on yourself, who you're talking with, the culture's there. Like the show is actually really cool because it has your comedy in it, but you're learning a lot. Like the one in Alaska and the glaciers and all that stuff. Like you almost feel like you become friends with those guys, like Pete.
Yeah.
Like, all the episodes, KB, like Burton.
I still talk to all those guys, and I think that is the coolest thing about the show. Like for me, the show is about the people we're linking up with. Like I'm sort of this connection between their story that just links it back to telling all the stories that we're trying to tell. But those, like each episode, like the hero is the person we link up with, and we're just trying to have fun doing it because like it's what we love. Like we love going on these trips, we love meeting new people, and we love learning things about a sport that we all thought we knew like really well.
What's it like for you? Because obviously we grew up surfing in the ocean, idolizing guys, I don't know, like Kelly Slater and Andy Irons and all these guys. Like, and then you're on a trip. Today I was watching the board riding one with Stephen King, and he tells you straight to your face he's never surfed in the ocean. And it's like, for him, like, getting a great ride is equated in miles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is it different than surfing, or is it the same, or do you have to segregate the two cultures, or is it universal?
I think it's universal. Like, I mean, because I think what connects Stephen King to Kelly Slater is just the stoke of surfing, and it's not that, I mean, whatever. Like for probably Kelly, it's more of a contest because he's a competitive surfer. Yeah. But Stephen King, it's like his contest is miles. So I think that's what it is. It's just a different, like it's a universal love for surfing, funneled through like people's desires of and interpretations of what the sport is to them.
Do you feel like you have, out of all the episodes so far, like do you feel like you have a favorite of the way they're doing it? I mean, you have Ice Spa, River, Boars, you have
like my favorite
lakes.
Episode?
I guess no, just like, well, maybe the favorite episode's a good way to put it, but like the scene there, like
like my favorite scene.
Crew, or like like the boys vibing up kind of.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it just feels like each episode has become sort of like I have this, it's like family or something, or like your children. Like it's hard to pick your favorite child, your favorite like dog. Yeah. It's just like they're all awesome in their own way. I think to me, since it was my first board, that England trip was just really cool because I don't know, seeing a boar for the first time and like Weird Waves being the excuse for us to like be there to shoot that, I was blown away. I was like, damn, like this is such a cool way for me to learn about all these about all these different things in surfing that I had no clue were even there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, we're just going and like looking under all these rocks and like checking out these, what's under there? Oh, wow, cool. So it's just, it's the best excuse to go and check it all out.
I love that line in that episode where you're like, normally you'd catch a coffee or a beer like after a surf, but like here's you with 30 dudes rocking in to have breakfast. It's just epic. Like, hey, should we get brekkie now?
Well, that particular experience was just like, I don't know. That's when I felt like, okay, we're like, this is truly awesome, like what we're doing, because exactly like you just said it. You usually catch a drink, and I say it in the episode, but like you catch like a beer or a coffee or whatever, but you would like, when do you go with everyone from Lowers to go get breakfast?
Yeah, like this entire parking lot right here.
You guys, we did it!
We're
like, let's head to SC Cafe and go get breakfast. It's like, you can't stand the sight of anyone like you surf with normally at like, especially like a super crowded break. And that's the super refreshing aspect of it for me too, is like seeing how people interpret that. It's like they don't see people in the lineup as like, oh gosh, like the other person.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, these are all the people who surf, and that's just what it is. And now, like, I feel like surfing on the coast has gotten progressively more and more crowded, so people are feeling that more, and that's understandable. I'm victim of it as well. But it's like seeing surfing or like traveling back in time.
But where's your mindset now after learning and experiencing that? Like, if you're going to Lowers, let's just say there's like 60 people out, are you looking at everybody like just ahead in the lineup, or are you a little bit more like, what's up, everybody?
It's helped me a lot with like just day-to-day normal surf, and inspired me a lot, but I'm not gonna lie, I can't help but get frustrated sometimes when you just have one of those sessions where you can't catch a wave, everyone's in your way, you're like, like it gets frustrating, but it does help reel me back and be like, well damn, like everyone's just loving it out there and they're just trying to like have a good time.
Yeah.
And I can let go of it a lot easier or whatever now,
It is. I mean, it's funny though. I feel like I remember when we were at the ice spa in Munich, and there was that one session where it's so packed you could only surf once in like 30 to 45 minutes because people were circulating. But the vibe was so different. It wasn't like get off the wave. It was just, and as soon as you're on the wave, you're clicked into that present moment. But like everybody was throwing high fives, and it felt kind of super pure.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I can totally see it. It just gets jammed up. It gets balled up.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I feel like there are just a lot of things in life that challenge you to have the right perspective. I mean, like glass half full kind of shit.
Yep.
Like you always want to be like trying your best to look at things with the like right mindset, right set of eyes, but obviously easier said than done. But yeah.
But in what way? Like, what are you saying? What are the things, I guess, lately that have been making you feel that way, or like testing you a little bit?
Well, I feel like as far as weird waves goes, and what I've learned with like the people we've linked up with, is how like open they are, and they share so much, and they open themselves completely. And I was just like, man, like that is such an inspiring thing, to be like that hospitable, that like open, and that like just sharing that much of yourself with someone. And that's what like traveling is so cool, getting to connect with these people.
Yeah.
And have that sort of experience with them is just like been blowing my mind, and it just makes me feel like so good about doing all the shows and inspired to do more, because we're like, whether it's like a Burton or KB or now Pete in Alaska.
What about Tao?
And Tao, yeah, I mean Tao was. They're just all so different in their own ways, but also they all, they have sort of the same spirit, and we're all connected through surfing. Like, how rad is that?
Yep.
I don't know, I trip out on that.
You kind of just nailed it, because it's like they are so different, but they all seem like you connect with a similar person on pure joy and stoke for surfing, wherever the fuck it's at. Like when KB's breaking it down in Missoula, like you guys are like this, looking at the coastline.
Right.
Not a coastline, it's a river. And he's like, yeah, and just up there is the next one. Like, and then it's like, dude, the next one's like different and killer. Like, that was mind warping to hear that the first time. Like, you were so far from a frickin' ocean right there.
Yeah, that's sick. Well, that's what I was thinking. Like in the show, I'm glad you saw that or thought that too. Like,
oh, dude, that was like,
sick.
was that right after you took this, like the piping hot sip of your coffee?
Yeah.
Which is my favorite clip of the whole season.
So we slept right there, like right next to the Lochsaw River. And KB, like right when we pulled up, he told me, he was like, hey, this spot is magical. And I was like, oh, all right. He's like, yeah, like straight up the deepest sleep I've ever had in my life. I'm like, oh, like that, like sleep magical. He's like, well, everything magical, but like sleep magical, you're gonna trip out. And so I woke up, like we slept amazing, just like he said. And we went to bed at like, I don't know, 8:30 or something, like 9, like not that late, because you know when you're camping, it's just like, okay, like you finish all your beers quick, or
yeah.
you know there's not much else to do. You go to sleep. So, and we went to bed like around then, and woke up at like 9:30, 10, and was like, I was like, could have slept for like 6 more hours. It was the craziest thing. I was like, whoa, you're right about the sleep. So we like got up, and I was still like, you know, bedhead, asleep, whatever. And we had Steve there, like KB's friend Steve just had coffee rigged up, poured it, half asleep. We're like about trying to get ready for this interview, and I just take a sip. I was like, oh!
I think your face was like.
I know, it was a weird moment, and then it was just funny because Dave loved the moment. He's like, we gotta leave that in. And I was like, all right. But.
You know what? Because you took it out of those hydro flasks, the coffee mug, which basically when you come up like this, it's cold.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, cool, killer. And then it just
it's
comes.
unassuming.
It's molten lava.
Had no clue that the thing was like molten lava. But
it was kegging. That's the kegging way, right?
Yeah.
I just love that.
The scene there was just insane. Like those kids, like, you know, KB was like, he's such a pillar in his community because he gave all those kids boards. Like he's got them all like dialed in. Like they're surfing together all the time. So it was cool to see like his stoke kind of rubbed off on them a lot, and it's just rad.
What do you think for you? Because now you have quite a big variety of where you've gone and what you've kind of surfed in a weird sense. Does it keep growing, or do you have people now reaching out to you saying like, hey, check this out? Because it's funny, because I even think about it too. Sometimes when I'm seeing weird things like, oh, wow, I should send this to D. Like this looks weird. Like maybe he's into it.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of people have been reaching out just on like Instagram and stuff with suggestions or whatever ideas, and it's sick. Like I love it because I love seeing all the things. That's actually like how we got to going to Portugal, which is one of the episodes that's going to come out. It's the 3rd episode of season 2.
What happens there?
Nick Von Rupp reached out and was like, hey, like I got a wave for you guys. You guys should come do this wave in Portugal with this guy Ricardo and the ferries that are like going by. They made like a home break for these guys who surfed, who had to drive like 40 minutes to the coast. And I was like, that's perfect.
That's rad.
So we just connected with him, and then Ricardo, and now we have our 3rd episode of season 2.
Do you think is there going to be another season after season 2?
I hope so. Yeah, we're gonna pitch another one to bands, and hopefully they're on board with it.
But do you already have thoughts of what you would do, or do you wait?
We do. So we've made a master list.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's great. That's really cool.
I think we have. There's like 30 locations that we could
Oh
go and
my
do
gosh.
that I would personally like to go and do.
Yes. Okay. Long live.
So we could go above and beyond with Weird Waves for as long as Vans wants to like do it for.
Well, I'm ready. Fucking hey, let's go.
Vans, let's do this.
What?
Yeah, no, I'm psyched. It's like I'm more inspired. Like the more trips we've been doing, like the more inspired I've been getting on it because we're learning how to do it better. we're having fun with all the challenges it presents, and it's like it's seriously the best excuse to try to get better in every aspect of like our craft, or like surfing, editing, shooting, communicating. Like that's a huge one. Just like communication between everyone who's trying to, like, you know, on the trips, to like me and Dave when we're editing, and we were working with George Trim and Victor Popcore on music. So
that's really cool. That's a Vacation Club crew.
Yeah.
And George, as well as Forbidden Trim.
Yeah. George Trim and Victor were super helpful with just, I feel like, I don't know, I'm really proud of the music from this season, the new season, because we had a lot more time, like knowing we were getting a second season and everything. We were already like stockpiling different songs, and then just, I don't know, learning like all the stuff we learned from season 1, we got to like kind of like expand on in this season with the music. And I feel like we set tones for episodes, and things have like their own feel, where last season was just kind of like this, I don't know, like a free-for-all or like almost a scramble, because we didn't know what we were doing.
It's funny because I feel like even in the first episode, if you're really looking, there's like that low-key Zissou aspect where you guys are all in, and I don't know if that's
in Alaska?
The beanie. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we thought it would be cool to have some underlying like team feel.
Yeah.
To it. So when you saw, because obviously you're going to be flying drones, like people are going to be getting into shots, and that's just the nature of it. So we were kind of trying to embrace it a little bit with having, like, we all had yellow beanies. And like there was like this color tone throughout the whole thing.
There was brown too, though. Yeah,
brown and yellow. Yeah. Like that was, so we made these flags. My wife, Batman, made these flags that were brown and yellow that just said weird waves. We put it on the boat, and yeah, I mean, it was feeling pretty Zissou to us. Like even before we got there, we're like, wow, this feels like the weird waves like Zissou mission. So we're trying to like pay a little homage to that, and then also just have fun with like having a theme.
But that's so fun. Like I feel like as a viewer, there's almost like black belt level understanding where you're like, whoa, I've watched it 16 times. Like, what? Because I texted you, I was like, I never saw the face in that glacier when it fell. And then it's like, bam, there's a face, and then the glacier falls. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah, well, we like to put a lot of, I know that's very sci-fi as well. Just like little Easter eggs, little things that you notice if you do watch it again, you're like, oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Or because we're thinking, like every shot that's in there, we have dissected this thing a million ways, sideways, upside down, everything. And me and Dave, like,
stress yourself out.
It's just in our nature. That's what we do. We love geeking out on stuff and just tinkering with like, oh, well, what about this? And so now that I've gotten a little more versed in like Premiere and stuff and how to do things, I can communicate better by showing Dave.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's helped our relationship out a lot with just communication. Instead of me like telling him what to do, what to change, I just go in there and change it. Like, what about this? And he's either like, yeah, I love it, or I hate it, or, you know, oh, well, that's cool. Let me just tweak this, and then voila, we have something like that we're both just super psyched on. I feel like that's when you're reaching somewhere. That's when you're really getting somewhere of like, you know, when you have two people's visions that like converge and like kind of like rise or like elevate the level of what the initial idea was.
Oh, for sure. It seems like two like-minded guys. Like, it seems like you guys enjoy the similar stylization or things that, you know, like what you enjoy, watch on TV, listen to music-wise is similar. And then you guys are pushing each other to become better in those aspects to create something that's unique in itself.
Yeah, I feel like we do gel really well. Yeah. And that was from the beginning.
Oh, you're gelling well.
You're
gelling well.
But yeah, they are, I guess, like, whether our styles were complementary or not, like, I do feel like we have been able to reach this place of, like, oh yeah, okay, like I know your style, like he knows my style, I know what he likes, he knows what I like, so it's like some things I'll do and I'll just know he's gonna hate. I'm like, Dave, I did this, but I know you're gonna hate it. I just want you to watch it. And then he'll watch it and be like, well, I didn't hate it that much. I'm just gonna change this and I feel like I'd love it. And vice versa. He's like, okay, I took this out, I know you loved it, but I just wanted you to feel this, like see what this is. And there's a lot of that. So it's just like, I don't know, like after, years of being friends, you kind of learn more things about that person. And then, it has been helpful just having that knowledge of the other person when we're working on these things. Even when we're shooting, like most of the time on trips, I'll see something happening and I'll go to tell Dave and he's already like shooting it or doing or like kind of making the effort to get to whatever it is that I'm thinking about, and vice versa. Like there's been times where I can just like I'll just see something or like go and interview someone or whatever it is, and he's like, okay, we're on, and that's like extremely helpful.
Do you think the idea and the like weird waves, surfing weird waves, enjoying weird waves, does it come equal in that sense, like you're saying? Or did you feel like, do you have the passion for weird waves and then Dave and you have the passion for creating the season?
So I think it's both. So I definitely have a passion for novelty, as
Where did that start?
You well know.
Yeah, like I
don't know.
As long as I've known you, it's been like that, but I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's just been
diapers?
Like something that, I just like being refreshed by something.
Yeah.
And I feel like novelty waves definitely surprise me. And it's something that you don't get to experience all the time, because a normal wave will peel perfectly and you can expect that wave to peel perfectly, and that's super fun. Don't get me wrong, I love that too. But when a wave, all of a sudden there's like a, backwash or a wedge, and you get this crazy speed where you don't even know or saw or understand how it came from, like that's super fresh for me. So on that level, novelty waves, I love you.
Love you a long time.
Love you long time, novelty waves. But yeah, then also just creating things with friends. Like I grew up with Aaron Geiger and Brian Toff.
Knock it off too.
Knock it off days. That was probably the catalyst for me being interested in production and just like filming. We would all take turns filming each other.
Yeah.
Aaron was all about the editing, which like, we'd go into his room and he'd have his computer and we're seeing all the clips laid out, and I always just thought it was cool, but I didn't like ever try myself until like Dave kind of pushed me over the ledge to do it for the like pilot episode for Weird Waves.
I remember you were like light years ahead of where we were at when you were first coming over and we met you. Like I was like 13 or 15 or something. You had your computer and you had like iMovie, and you literally had clips from like middles and stuff. And you're like, what? Dude!
Well, yeah.
Just all organized and on it.
That's funny. Yeah. I don't know. I've always been into photography, videography.
Yeah.
You guys as well, since I've known you, have always been into that.
But you got us fired up. I feel like in that way, you were like, hey, let's get a camera between the four of us, right? And then it was like, oh, cool, let's take 20 minutes each and just see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I really do.
You don't happen to have jumper cables by any chance, do you? Our batteries just died.
No way. Let me look and see.
Got battery.
Yeah, so where were we?
Dude, we kind of scored here, D. Like, this has been an all-world afternoon.
Well, this is pretty much what we try to do every afternoon. Since I've been living in San Clemente, you guys have opened my world to this beautiful little spot that you can come down, pull your car up, have a surf, and have a beer after. So thank you guys for always being family and looking after me all these years.
Is it really a Hooters? Is it a Hooters koozie? Is that what we're on?
Yeah. Yeah. Delightfully tacky.